Hey guys, I'm here to talk to you about the Democratic debate that just occurred. As you can see, the setup is a little different. I am not in the usual studio that I'm normally at. I'm actually on vacation right now with some family. I came to an undisclosed, more tropical location than I'm normally in, and I'm visiting family, so I didn't get to watch the debate live. I got back to the hotel room, and I actually just listened to it. I was looking for clips on YouTube of the debate to see if there was a full debate, and I couldn't find anything of the CNN debate. I like the visual. It always gives me like it always informs me on like how the candidates are interacting and whatnot. But it was interesting to just kind of watch it and hear it. As you'll also probably notice, I've shaved my head, and that's personal. So if you know me in person, I will tell you that story. If not, don't worry about it. Maybe you like this new look better, but or maybe you don't. But at any rate, that doesn't matter. What's more important is talking about this debate that I just listened to. Again, I didn't get to see it, so I don't know what it looked like. I think that there's some parts that may have looked really interesting, namely the interaction between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, which I will get to. And the other thing, I didn't take notes like I normally do. I came down to where I'm at, and I just didn't bring like pen and paper with me to like take copious notes as I'm listening, highlight all the things that I want to say. So what I'm about to talk to you about is way less organized than I normally am. Or maybe you don't even think I'm organized anyways, but whatever. I'm not going to be organized. I'm just going to go through what I thought. Overall, what I thought today was that the debate was way more interesting in that there were less people on the stage. And excuse me while I adjust my laptop because I am live streaming this to upload onto YouTube. And I don't want it to fall. All right. Um, it was interesting that there were less people. And I think because there were less people on stage, we really got to see what the differences between each candidate, or we got to see a better highlight of the differences between those who are on stage. But overall, I don't like that there were voices who were not there that are normally there, like Andrew Yang. I really missed his voice. I missed Tulsi Gabbard's voice, even though I always feel like I have to say disclose this, but I have such disagreements with her. But at the same time, I really respect the voice that she brings to the stage, and especially when she keeps candidates in check in a way that no one else does, or that a lot of them are afraid to. So I miss having their voices on stage. And then there's a whole like media hoopla about having candidates of color. Cory Booker just ended his campaign for presidency. What I will say about that, and I think I've said this in the past, is that I think it's more important to have issues of color front and center on stage and candidates representing those issues rather than just a litmus test of how many black candidates are on stage, how many Hispanic candidates are on stage. Julian Castro also ended his campaign and he endorsed Elizabeth Warren. Um, our Latino issues on stage, our LGBT issues on stage. I mean, Mayor Pete is gay, and it's nice that there's representation, but is LGBT representation in terms of issues on stage? And now, what I normally like to point to, even when it comes to African American issues, Latino American issues, LGBT issues, I think for a lot of them, one of the biggest women's issues is healthcare. How robust was the conversation on healthcare? How robust is the conversation on healthcare that Mayor Pete is bringing to the stage? Having to do, with the HIV crisis, which is not as much a crisis now as it was 30, 20 years ago, even. But say, for example, healthcare for trans Americans. Is he really representing that, being the only gay person on stage? Was Cory Booker talking about the disparity between healthcare for Black Americans and white Americans, the way that Black Americans want to be hearing about that on stage. So representation is good, but it's not the thing. It's representation in issues. Okay. Yeah, so we got to see a good highlight of the differences between the candidates on stage. The other thing, oh yeah, and that I wish there were some of the other candidates like Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang. The other takeaway was that it didn't seem like anyone won the debate yet again. It seemed like this time we got to see what they all represented. Like they all kind of stayed in their lane. And then the last takeaway has to do with Elizabeth Warren. And if there was a loser tonight, I hate to say that it was her because, out of all the candidates, she's one of my favorites. Bernie Sanders is my favorite, but she decided to embrace Clinton world. And by that, she really embraced the criticisms that the Clintonites had of Bernie Sanders post the election in 2016. Um, and to go with the former attacks on Bernie Sanders about him being a sexist candidate, which I think uh, for me, it falls flat seeing how much he's done on women's issues over the years. But for what she's playing into are Clinton lovers and these woke social justice warriors who are all about feminism only when it applies to rich white women and don't necessarily pay attention to feminism that affects Black and brown women, not just in America, but around the world, because these woke white feminists could support women's issues when it comes to um, having to abortion rights, which all women should be able to have the freedom to choose whether to maintain a pregnancy or not. But they don't support women's issues, say when women's issues have to do with, I don't know, being bombed in Iran or Afghanistan or Baghdad. So all this like fake cultural signaling, I don't like it. I don't like that Elizabeth Warren is kind of going that route by aligning herself with Hillary Clinton. It seems that in recent weeks and months, by the endorsements that she's getting, that the Obamas are really trying to prop her up. Um, so and then in the debate, she had doubled down on this insinuation that Bernie Sanders said that a woman can't win the presidency, to which he just flatly denied. And then she reaffirmed it with the help of the moderators of the debate. I want you to remember that I was listening in the debate, they asked Bernie, when they asked Bernie about what he said, within the question, they didn't ask him like if he had said it. They implied that he said it. And then they asked the question. I forget what the specific question was. And then I remember they followed through with Elizabeth Warren, and they said, well, Senator Warren, how did you feel when he said that? And just stay with me for a minute because I think I'm about to say some shit that's going to get people upset. But this woke cultural signaling pisses me off, and I'm sure it pisses off a lot of Americans. The Me Too movement was a wonderful thing in that women were able to finally stand up to men who were abusing power in horrific ways. Then came with the Me Too movement the hashtag Believe Women, which at its core, I believe is a good thing in terms of let's believe women when they make accusations, when they have something an accusation about a man, we have to believe it and then see what the evidence is to corroborate that accusation. But this idea of just believe women and then someone has a rebuttal to it, and then you're like, no, I believe the woman, is such bullshit, especially seen in this instance with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders. The reason why I think it's bullshit is because Bernie Sanders has a track record of standing up for women's issues. And also in 2015, he had, and he said this in the debate, he actually approached Elizabeth Warren to encourage her to run for president because he believed that she would be the one to take the nomination in 2016 and really bring about a progressive agenda to the White House. She didn't run. Bernie Sanders ran in opposition to Hillary Clinton. And in that whole primary, when it was Bernie against Hillary, there were so many people saying that there were sexist undertones to the race between Bernie and Hillary. He didn't endorse her early enough. He wasn't enthusiastic about his support. Look, he endorsed her in July of 2016. I think he endorsed her. It was after the convention. And then he went on to do 39, I believe it was 39. You could double check that statistic for me. But 39 events around the country, I think including Wisconsin, to which Hillary Clinton didn't even go, where he campaigned on her behalf. So, and prior to her losing, she had sent a note to Bernie Sanders thanking him for all the work that he had done on her behalf. There was something else having to do with this. Yeah, there were the 39 events. Oh, yeah. Let's do a quick comparison to when Hillary Clinton ran against Barack Obama in 2008. I remember specifically people were calling for Hillary Clinton to drop out of the race once it was clear that Obama was going to take the nomination, that he had earned the support of more delegates than Hillary Clinton. And she decided to stay in the race. Now, I was watching at the time. I was into it at the time. I was very much Team Obama. And I was very much against Hillary Clinton during the whole race until it was clear that she was going to lose. And I saw that she decided at that moment that rather than just hang up her campaign, she was continuing on the road. She was still campaigning in the states that didn't have the primaries. And she went to the media and every event and said that this was more than just getting the delegates for her, because she knew that she wasn't going to have the delegates at the time, that she was doing this because of the movement that she had created, for the movement she inspired, for the young women, the girls in America that she inspired with her candidacy. I saw that and I was like, you know what? No, Hillary's got to finish this out. Like, Hillary has to go through every single contest. And even with the knowledge that she's going to lose a nomination to Barack Obama, she's got to finish through. And she did that. And yes, she endorsed Obama, I think, before the convention. And that was in June of 2008. But in comparison, Bernie Sanders, he ran his campaign, and I thought the same thing. All right, he was bound to lose. He needs to just finish every single contest. And he goes to July of 2016, goes to the convention. He had this dramatic moment, I believe, with his brother. I guess, I don't know how the convention works, honestly. Like, I never paid attention to that too much. I might have to pay a little more attention this go around. But his brother had I think he was one of the delegates or something, and then he was like proud to say, "Oh, my brother," and I might be wrong, but I think they might have made a big deal out of it just to like say that there was the first Jewish American that was earning delegates at the convention. I could be wrong about that. I really don't know. But at any rate, it was clear that he wasn't going to win in 2016, and he hadn't fully endorsed her then. But then he went on to fully endorse her, and then he went on to do 39. That was more than what Hillary Clinton did for Barack Obama. And on top of that, this whole notion that Bernie bros, me, and other people who support Bernie Sanders were not supporting Hillary Clinton in the general election. There were more Hillary supporters that were spiteful about her losing to Barack Obama that ended up voting for John McCain in 2008 than Bernie Sanders supporters who voted for Donald Trump. So that whole notion is bullshit. And all this hoopla, just to say that what Elizabeth Sanders ran with tonight to go against Bernie, to say that he's sexist and all this shit was such bullshit. And you know it, Elizabeth Sanders. And Elizabeth Sanders supporters know it, and Hillary Clinton and her people all know it too. Such bullshit. Yeah, I'm really disappointed. And I'm saying this as someone like, I don't think anyone talks better about trade uh, in the United States than Elizabeth Warren. Her message is fantastic. I love the stuff she talks about having to do with corruption. And she still makes that her central focus, and she did a great job of that tonight, talking about corruption in every sense of the government and why things can't get done in Washington D.C. But I don't know if she's going to go this way. If this is what she's going to do, and maybe she's desperate because she's showing third, fourth place now. Bernie Sanders is having a surge as second. It seems that he has garnered a lot of the support that Kamala Harris had when she dropped out. Bernie was a strong second for so many of the candidates. So when they start to drop like flies, it seems that he's only going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. If Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard drops out, Bernie is eating, I'm saying 90% of their support easily. If Elizabeth Warren drops out, I say he takes most of that support. I don't know about Pete Buttigieg. I wouldn't rely too much on that, but Joe Biden's as well. But if Joe Biden drops out, Bernie's already right there. So maybe she's seeing that and is a little worried, but I don't like it. I don't like it in how she's running. I don't like what it says about how she would be as president, that she's going to cozy up to the Hillary Clinton Democrats. I do want to see a different kind of Democrat win the White House, not just what we've been seeing from neoliberal, neoconservative, centrist Democrats that we've had in the White House. Barack Obama and Bill Clinton were the last ones. What else? Let me just think one by one. Joe Biden. I think Bernie Sanders did a great job of contrasting himself from Joe Biden, not just with foreign policy. Oh yeah, it wasn't a very robust conversation on foreign policy, but I did like them going into some of the details having to do with Iran, China, Russia. There was some good stuff in there. And Bernie Sanders really drew the difference between himself and the other candidates having to do with foreign policy. I love that he highlighted his record on drawing up the resolution to end the conflict in Yemen. And he really drew a distinction between himself and Joe Biden on Iraq. Joe Biden is doing what he's got to do. He's continuing to align himself with Barack Obama. There's a lot of slips of tongue that I'm noticing with Joe Biden. He'll say stuff like, when we were president and vice president. I don't know if that's on purpose. He's trying to just kind of infiltrate Americans' minds. It might be effective. I don't know. If that's your strategy, I see it. But I don't know. It might be a good strategy for him. Pete Buttigieg did not sound like to me he was the Pistol Pete of the past. He didn't sound either horrible, um, or he didn't sound like a big loser like he did in the last debate, but he didn't sound like the formidable front runner that the media was painting him out to once be. Uh, yeah, Amy Klobuchar also, she threw in that like progressive but practical line a few times again. And I mean, yeah, she's going to go with that. That's her brand. I think she's just kind of waiting to see what the numbers are going to be when she actually starts running. And then I think she's going to figure out from there what she wants to do. She never had one of the strongest campaigns, which I think probably worked to her advantage in comparison with someone like Kamala Harris. Harris, who had a very strong campaign, a lot of backing from the beginning, kind of hit the ground running, but then, once she lost just a little bit of steam in December, she had to close out completely because she probably had so many expenses going on in her campaign. Amy Klobuchar's, you know, show on the road doesn't really require as much in expenses as Senator Harris's did, but I think that's giving her a little more longevity in the end. Tom Steyer. Uh, Weirdly, I like what I hear from the guy. Uh, I don't know. Like he says all the right things. You know, is he gonna win my support? No, but uh, in terms of policy, I agree with him on a lot. The way that he talks about climate change is great. He says that he's the only one that said he's making it the first priority. I don't think it's necessarily. Um, th- it's got to be like talked about in so many different ways. It has to be talked about like everywhere. So here's one thing that I thought was interesting in the debate. They were talking about trade. I think it was Elizabeth Warren. And I said, I love her message on trade. She does a fantastic job. Or it was Bernie or Elizabeth. I forget. Either one of them was talking about trade. And then they started talking about, it was Bernie, I think. He started talking about climate change. And then I think Elizabeth Warren responded. And the moderator said, let's stick to the topic. The topic is trade. And then I think I can't decide who it was, Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. One of them said, no, like this is like climate change is part of trade. Like you can't but talk about climate change when we're talking about trade and the way that trade affects our farming industry, so many industries in the United States. So I just I don't like that they're talking about a lot of these issues divorced from so many other issues. They'll talk about like in the last debate when Bernie was trying to talk about um, climate change and racial justice, like, and then the moderator's like, no, you have to just talk about racial justice. No, they go hand in hand. Or like when they talk about women's issues, and then Bernie wants to talk about healthcare because um, Medicare for All does cover uh, women's health issues, and they're like, no, we have to talk about just women's issues. They don't understand like what intersectionality is when it comes to actual issues, and that really annoys me. I'm not saying that Tom Steyer does that per se, but uh, I don't know if I buy him in that he's the best candidate for climate change. But I thought he did a good job, and I don't know how far he's going to take his campaign. He could stay in as long as he wants. He got the money. It's all about the money, and that's kind of unfortunate because I think that I mean he's devoted his life to business, and then he's translated that work and that he's done in the business sector, and then decided to take that and do good in the world. But there's some other candidates who have devoted their lives to public service, and I'd rather trust them in the White House than anyone else. Anyways, guys, I like I said, this isn't going to be as detailed as the last analysis. That's my reaction. I probably missed a lot of stuff that you want to talk about, but feel free to message me, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram at Johnny Jabbour, JohnnyJabbour. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to make this big time and interact. Put comments in there. I love reading comments, even when they're negative. I actually take negative comments as a badge of honor because we all know that the internet is a breeding ground for trolls. And if I could attract trolls, that means I'm doing something right. So thanks for watching, guys. And hopefully, I'll see you again soon on another episode of Johnny's Jabs. Peace.